will share my PPT. Can you see my PPT?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So here my name is there. You have already said that Professor Goel, Professor Sudha Goel, who is from civil engineering, she already taught you several topics. You already told me, and I am from the same department, civil engineering department. I am the Anjali Pal, so I will teach 2-3 days, and mostly air. I will talk about air. Okay, and so let me start the class today. Okay, so here you can see the reference. Okay, the environmental chemistry by A.K. De. You can get it in the library also, or you may, I don't know whether in the net it is available or not, but now you cannot come to the library also. But if these topics are there in any environmental chemistry book, so you can consult any book or Google also, or my notes also, anything is fine. Okay, these are not very deep level, so you can get from any book. Now you know this one, this there are environmental segments, there are different environmental segments. Okay, so atmosphere, then hydrosphere, and under hydrosphere all these things are there: ocean, river, lake, stream, that all those things, and then lithosphere, soil related things, and then biosphere, living things. Okay, so here is the atmosphere, so I will talk about atmosphere. Okay, now what is the major components, composition? Okay, there are some components which are which concentration is very high. Okay, so they are called major components. Say for example nitrogen, oxygen. We all know that nitrogen is about 80% by volume, right? So 78.09% is nitrogen. Oxygen is also 20.9%, about 20%. And water vapor. Water vapor is not very high, but still it comes under major components. Other than these, some minor components: argon, carbon monoxide. These are all percentage, volume percentage. Okay, and then other trace components, the noble gases, and then some nitrous oxide, ozone, all those things will come, ammonia, carbon monoxide. Okay, so these are trace components. Now, but this composition is more or less same. This is in the troposphere, right? So this composition is more or less same, and but depending on the hydrologic cycle, the cycle it is going on, that water is coming as vapor from the say for example sea, and then it forms the cloud, then it again precipitation occurs, means rain comes, then again it goes to the sea, like this is called hydrological cycle. Depending on the hydrological cycle, sometimes the water vapor, this water content may vary. Otherwise, all these things, if it is unpolluted, if there is pollution in some areas, then composition will vary, because depending on what type of pollution is there, so composition will vary. But if it is general, means not too much polluted, not very specific, then this is the composition. Okay. Now, the atmosphere, the composition of the atmosphere vary considerably with altitude. Composition with altitude it varies, that I will show you. The density of the atmosphere shows a sharp decrease with increasing altitude. When you increase the altitude, then density of the atmosphere will decrease very sharply. Okay, and pressure also, pressure also decreases. So for example, pressure at 100 kilometer above sea level is only this much, 3 into 10 to the minus 7 atmosphere, but at the sea level it is 1 atmosphere. So much difference you see. Then temperature also varies. you know, it can vary from minus 100 degree to 1200 degrees centigrade. It is a huge range. Okay. And the total mass of the atmosphere is this much tons, 5 into 10 to the 15 tons. But 70% of the whole mass is concentrated in the troposphere. Okay. So this is general. These are all general things. Now, the how temperature varies with the altitude, that I will show you. Okay. Here you can see that this is the in the y-axis it is the altitude in kilometers. Okay. And then this side it is the temperature. Here something is wrong. It is scanned from a book. Okay. But here something is wrong. Can you tell me what is wrong here? Anyone? Anyone student? Any student? No answer. Should we write degree K this like this? Should we write this one, degree K?
Ma'am, when is this degree Kelvin? It's just Kelvin.
That's what the answer should come from you, na? So only K you should write. So in the book also you can see mistakes. So many mistakes are there. Actually, when you write degree centigrade, then degree you write degree Fahrenheit, degree centigrade. But when you write Kelvin, this degree sign will not come. Anyway, so this is the scale. So 300 K means how much degree centigrade?
27.
Yes. So 27. Now this is the Earth surface, say for example, okay? So Earth surface it is 27 degree, and then you see the up to 11 kilometers. This is called troposphere. Okay, let me go to the next slide, then you will understand. Again, I will come back. So region, there are 4 regions in the atmosphere. Okay, in the atmosphere there are 4 regions depending on the altitude. Okay, it is divided into 4 different regions. First region, which is where we are there in this Earth surface, this is the troposphere, and this is from 0 to 11 kilometers. So this is the altitude. Up to 11 kilometer we call it troposphere. Then from 11 to 50 kilometers altitude we call stratosphere. Okay, stratosphere. And then from 50 to 85 we call mesosphere. Then 85 to 500 it is called thermosphere. Some books you may see that it is called ionosphere also, because there are so many ions present. That is why they are also in some books it is like this, ionosphere. But these two are same everywhere: troposphere, stratosphere, okay, mesosphere and thermosphere. Here it is called sometimes in ionosphere. So this is the altitude wise the division, and here you see the temperature range. In the troposphere, it can vary from 15 to 56. 15 to 56. Minus 56. You see here, minus 56. And then minus 56 to minus 2. And here it is not K, it is degree centigrade, okay? Then minus 2 to 92 and 92 to 1200. So very high temperature. Okay, and the species present, chemical species present in different regions. In the troposphere, you can see mainly, we all know nitrogen, oxygen. Nitrogen and oxygen is the main constituent. Then some amount of carbon dioxide, water is also there. And other things I have shown you the composition, so they are also present. Okay, and stratosphere, in the stratosphere, ozone is the main constituent. Okay, ozone. And then in the mesosphere and thermosphere, they are all ions. Sometimes electrons are also present. Okay, ions are present. Sometimes free radicals are present. Okay. Now let me come back to the previous slide. Okay. Now you can see here, if we start from 27 degrees centigrade, then here it is. You see here this one, sorry. Here if we think it is say 210, then it will become 63 degrees centigrade around, right? 63 degree minus 63 degrees centigrade. You can do it. You know the formula. Capital T is equals to 273 plus small t. So if you because here it is in K, so here approximately I am saying, here you can see that it is coming negative if you call it in degree centigrade, okay, minus. So it is also reflected here in the troposphere that it will come minus 56. Now one important thing here, you can see that as the altitude is increasing, temperature is decreasing, right? So altitude is increasing and temperature then it's decreasing. That is why it is called negative lapse rate. One increasing, one decreasing. That means slope. Slope is negative, right? So it is called negative lapse rate. Okay. And then in the stratosphere, you can see that it with increase of altitude, you see it is increasing. The temperature is increasing. That is why it is called positive lapse rate. Positive lapse rate. Here again it is decreasing. So it is negative lapse rate. Here it is positive lapse rate. So what is the means? It has significance. Lot of significance. You know that convection, right? If you take some water, okay, in a beaker, and then room temperature, at room temperature, then you put it in the, say, some oven, okay, then what will happen? The lower part will become hot, and then that hot water will go where? Go up, and then the cooler water will come down, okay. So this is called what? This is called what? Yes, answer. When you heat the water, the lower part becomes hot, it goes up, then cooler water, cold water comes down. What it is called? You are there or not in the class?
Yes, ma'am. Here, but I don't know what it is actually called.
Convection. What is called convection? What is convection? Conduction, convection. What are the different ways that heat can be, mm, go from one part to another part? This is called convection, isn't it? So the same is true for, I am giving example with water, but this thing happens for air also. Here we are talking about air. Atmosphere means air. So air, if the lower part is hot, upper part is cold, then what will happen? This type of situation will happen. Hot air will go up. You all have seen that hot air goes up and cooler water comes down. So that means mixing will occur. Mixing. So in the troposphere, a lot of mixing occurs in the air. Okay. So say for example, you produce something here, some gaseous compound you produce here, it goes up, then with the wind, with the circulation of air, it goes from one place to another place. That is why it is homogeneous. In the troposphere, it is more or less, composition is more or less same, unless it is too much, polluted. In local pollution happens. Otherwise, the composition is almost same because of mixing. Okay, but here you see here it is opposite. Means lower part and upper part. Lower part is hot or cold?
Lower part will be hot.
Lower part, think about stratosphere. Lower part here and upper part here. Which one is hot?
The upper part will be hot, sorry, in the stratosphere.
Upper part will be hot. So upper part hot means whether mixing will occur or not. Hot air is lighter or cold air is lighter?
Hot air will be the lighter.
Lighter. So in this case, in the stratosphere, whether mixing will be there or not?
It will be there then.
Why it will be there? Because mixing means what? Mixing means lower part is, when it becomes lighter, it goes up, right? But here it is already lighter part is in the upper part. So mixing, how the mixing will happen? Here mixing will happen because lower part is hotter, upper part is colder. So lower air, air in the lower part will go up, and from the upper part air will come down, which is cooler. But here it is the cold, it is the hot. So hot air is already lighter, so it will remain there. It will not come down because it is already lighter, isn't it? So you can think with water also the same thing. That is why in the stratosphere mixing is not there. It is static, more or less. Okay, and it is called quiescent. Quiescent. Stratosphere is quiescent, means being at rest or quiet. It is at rest, means there is not much mixing. In the stratosphere, there is not much mixing. It is quiescent. And quiescent means, if you go to the dictionary, you will see that being at rest or quiet. So in the stratosphere, it remains quiet. There is not much mixing. Here again, because this will be very important when I will discuss the ozone layer depletion. You know, this now it is very important, na? Ozone layer is getting depleted due to some man-made activities. So why it is happening, that will be clear from this. If you know this, that here there is not much mixing. This point where it is separating the two layers, here it is temperature inversion, means here negative lapse rate, here positive lapse rate. So it is changing. The nature is changing, negative, positive. It is called, this point is called it is called temperature inversion, and it is called tropopause. Tropopause. Okay. Tropopause. Now, so now you understand that the how temperature is from higher, it is coming to lower, then again higher, then again lower, then again higher. Now it is not coming back. So this one now you can see in the troposphere, this is the altitude. So the temperature is 15 to 56, then minus 56, then minus 56 to 2. Then minus 2 to 92, then 92 to 1200. And these are the species, okay, present. Now you can you can see this one. All of you already means learned somewhere, or you discussed, or I do not know, maybe greenhouse effect. Okay, there is lot of people are telling that there is greenhouse effect, and that is why global warming is happening. So what is greenhouse effect? Do you know this? Anyone can tell me that what is greenhouse effect? What is greenhouse? First tell. Have you seen greenhouse?
No. Haven't seen it.
If you go to cold places like Darjeeling, or some other places, then you will see there is some constructed house type made of that glass. Okay, and there inside there are a lot of plants which are grown, because that is a cold place. So they are grown, they need some temperatures, means not too cold temperature, so they are grown there. These are called greenhouse. Okay, greenhouse. So what is happening, that you will understand. And greenhouse effect, what is greenhouse effect and what are the greenhouse gases? Greenhouse gases, which are the gases which shows greenhouse effect. Okay, they are greenhouse gases, but that will come later. First you have to know what is greenhouse and what is greenhouse effect. Okay, now you see the most important thing is that, okay, what is that? The solar light. What type of light it is? Visible light, UV light, or heat? What? If I ask you, what is solar light? How will you explain? Solar light, see here. The solar spectrum incident on the Earth's surface has a peak at 483 nanometer. This is in visible region, right? 483 nanometers means visible light. Do you know what is the range of UV light? Do you know what is the range of UV light? Yes? Anyone? Wavelength. Wavelength, in terms of wavelength, what is the range of UV light?
100 to 400.
No. We call it 200 to 400, but sometimes 350 we tell. 200 to 350 or 400. For simplicity, you can tell 400. 200 to 400. This is the UV range, nanometers. And what is the range for visible light? For visible light, 400 to 800. Okay, so 400 to 800 is visible light. So here you see 483. So it is in visible region. This is the solar spectrum. Solar spectrum incident on Earth's surface has a peak. If you analyze, then you will see the peak is at 483 nanometer. That means in visible region. This indicates that the surface temperature of the sun is 6000 K. Okay. But if you analyze the Earth spectrum, means from Earth also something is radiating now. When it is heated with when the light falls, it is heated or it is getting something. So from the surface of the Earth also some radiation is there, something is coming out. So if you take the spectrum, then you will see that the peak is here, 10,000 nanometers. Can you tell me whether this is more energy, this has more energy, or this has more energy?
The one with the lower wavelength will have more energy.
Yeah, very good. E is equals to H nu. E is equals to H nu. What is H?
Planck's constant.
Yes, and what is nu?
Frequency.
Yeah. So if I convert nu to in terms of lambda, then what it will be?
C by lambda.
Very good. C by lambda. So lambda, when it is lower value, then E is higher, right? So here you see that solar light has more energy compared to the energy that is coming out from the earth. Okay, earth means surface, something is coming out, that one. And this is in the infrared region. You know infrared, what do you mean by infrared? Infrared light means what? Infrared radiation means what? Yes, can you tell me? It is heat. Infrared means heat. Okay, so you can see that, so earth absorbs mainly in the visible region, because earth gets the energy from the sun, so it is absorbing in the visible region this light, but emits radiation in the IR region. Okay, so it is absorbing visible light, but it is emitting infrared light, means heat. Okay, means some slim person is entering, it is interacting with the earth surface, it is becoming fat. Okay, means I am just giving an example. Okay, so this you have to remember if you want to know what is the greenhouse effect, then you have to know this thing. Okay, and why the greenhouse effect is produced by some gases, that also you have to know, and you will understand only when you know this thing. This part is very important, but that I will come. But see here, the earth absorbs 66% of the solar light, solar flux incident on it, while it reflects and scatters back into space 34%. Okay, it is called what? What it is called? It is scattering back some amount is scattered back. Albedo. Okay. So this is a perfect balance actually nature has made for us so that we can live. If it does not absorb some amount by greenhouse effect, then also we will die. And if it does not scatters back some amount, then also we will die. Okay. So because it is maintaining the temperature, it is maintaining the temperature on the earth surface. Okay, and we are living there, so temperature is maintained. That is why we are living, we are alive. Okay, now energy transport plays a crucial role in the earth's radiation balance. This occurs through, there are several ways that the balance, Earth's radiation balance occurs. There are different ways, like radiation of energy in the IR region. So it radiates energy in terms of heat. That is one way. Another is conduction of energy through the interaction of atoms. Somehow, you know, heat, how it is transferred, na? Through conduction, through convection. There are so many ways. Radiation. So this is also similar. Conduction of energy through the interaction of atoms. One atom to another, one molecule to another molecule. And then convection of energy through massive air circulation. That air circulation I told you, na? That one air from one part is coming to another part, then heat is also exchanged. Okay, so that way it is balancing, radiation balance occurring. Now here I will come here now, that I skipped that time. Okay, here what do you see here? This is the range. You see, 4,000 actually 4,000 to 24,000. It is in nanometer wavelength. Okay, this is the IR range. Okay, actually IR range in some books you will see that it is from 4 micron millimicron, you know, nanometer, millimicron. Do you have an idea about this? Nanometer and millimicron is same. Okay, nanometer and millimicron is same. And here some books you may see that from 4 micron. Okay, 4 micron to 40 micron. Okay, but here they have taken this range. Mainly this is the range for IR. Okay, 4,000 nanometers to 24,000 nanometers. Nanometer means 10 to the power minus 9 meter. Okay, so this is the range. Now you can see here in this range water, because in the atmosphere there is water and there is carbon dioxide. Main two constituents are there. No, main two constituents, nitrogen and oxygen, but other than nitrogen, oxygen, these are also present. So if you see the absorption of water, then you will see that water absorbs in this range. Okay, absorbs in this range some part and here also. And carbon dioxide mainly absorbs in this range. So if you look into the whole spectrum of IR, then some part water is absorbing some of the radiations and carbon dioxide is also absorbing some of the radiation. So only this part is not absorbed by either water or carbon dioxide. This is that is why it is called atmospheric window. This part neither water is absorbing nor carbon dioxide is absorbing, but major part is absorbed either by carbon dioxide or water. Okay, so now the IR that is given out by the earth surface, IR is given out by the earth surface. Think something that in the atmosphere there is water and there is carbon dioxide. So what will happen? They will absorb the heat because they are the good absorber of IR radiation. So they will absorb the heat. So some part will go out because this is the window. Some part of the IR radiation will go out, but major part will be absorbed by either carbon dioxide or water. Then what will happen? Then heat will be retained. Heat will not go out. Heat will be retained by the atmosphere. Okay, by that part of the atmosphere. Now, if heat is retained, then what will happen? Of IR radiation, so some part will go out definitely to the outer space through the window. Some part will go out unabsorbed, which is the unabsorbed radiation in the region of atmospheric window, that is 8,000 to 13,000 nanometers. This is the window. You see here, it is about 8,000, that it is about 13,000. So this is the window. So this part, some radiation will go out definitely out to the outer space, but some part will obviously retained by the water and carbon dioxide molecules. So when it is retained, then so it will be hot, right? It will be hot, and then that is why now this is called greenhouse effect. Why? Because greenhouse that I told you to means to grow the plants, some plants in the cold place. What is happening there? Light is coming through the wall or through the roof because it is glass made. So light is coming. It is coming to the surface inside the greenhouse. Then it is interacting and then it is becoming the IR radiation, heat. Then heat is not going out. So it is retained. So temperature is retained in the greenhouse. Okay. And here the similar effect is done by the carbon dioxide and water molecules. So there the heat is retained by them. That is why it is called greenhouse effect. And when there is lot of carbon dioxide generated, you know, carbon dioxide, if you see here, if you see the composition, you can see here the carbon dioxide. You see the carbon dioxide, this is a minor component. This is the concentration, right? This is percent volume. In 100 volume, this is the volume. Okay. But if you want to convert it to ppm, so in 1 million, how much? So it should be multiplied by 10 to the power 4. In 100, this is present. So in million, if you want to convert, then you have to multiply it with 10 to the power 4. So it will become 325 ppm parts per million. Now it has become more than 400, 412, 415. So carbon dioxide concentration is going up. Why? Why it is going up? Because of our activities. You know, we are producing lot of carbon dioxide from different sources, from the fuel burning, from other sources also. So carbon dioxide is produced, and when too much carbon dioxide is there, then this retention of heat will be there. That is why global warming is coming. This is due to greenhouse effect. Not only carbon dioxide, water, but also there are many more gases which show this type of greenhouse effect. Say for example, nitrous oxide, methane. There are many other chlorofluorocarbon, CFC. All those gases also show the greenhouse effect. Now, some amount of carbon dioxide should be there to maintain the temperature, but it should not be too much. If it is too much, then greenhouse effect, due to greenhouse effect, the global warming will be there. And if the temperature goes too much high, then the glacier will melt and then water level of the sea will go up. So many places will be flashed out. That is why we should control the carbon dioxide concentration in the air. Now, I hope you have understand this thing now. Now, another important topic is I will discuss now. This is the ozone layer formation and ozone layer depletion. Okay, ozone. You have seen that ozone is there in the stratosphere. So why now it is becoming important, the depletion and all? What is happening there in the stratosphere? That I will explain now. Okay. Now you see here that oxygen is there. Although with the increase of altitude, oxygen concentration is decreasing, continuously decreasing, and it is becoming too less concentration in the thermosphere and stratosphere, but still some amount is there. Now, from the outer space, you know, the light is coming, which some amount is also UV range. Okay, some light is in the UV range. Okay, now UV range means below 200 nanometers or maybe 200 to 400 nanometers. So 200, around 200 is also UV, and 200 to 350 is also UV, but the range is different, but both are UV. Now at this range, it is more energy. It has more energy compared to this one, right? So 200 nanometers, oxygen can be dissociated to oxygen. Oxygen, this is the molecule, and it can go to O, and O means oxygen atoms. Okay, because it is high energy, very high energy light. So in the thermosphere, it happens. Oxygen is decomposed to oxygen atoms. Okay. Now, when oxygen atoms are produced, this is very reactive, so it can react with oxygen to form the ozone. Why the star is coming? Because it is excited molecule. To show some molecule in excited condition, we put star. But it is excited molecule. Okay, excited molecule. But you know, excited molecule cannot remain in the excited state. It definitely comes back to its ground state by releasing its extra energy. Okay, and how it will do? To interacting with some other molecule, it can do that. Now, in the stratosphere, this thing is happening. Oxygen atom, which is produced here, is reacting with oxygen molecule to form the ozone, but it is in excited state. Now, in the excited molecule can give out the excess energy with some other molecule, any molecule, that is why it is called M, and it comes back to the ground state. It is happening in the stratosphere. So this is natural formation. Okay, it was happening from ancient time. Okay, natural formation is always there. Now it is there. Previously, long time back also it was there. Now what is happening? This ozone can react, can interact with the light. This light is lower energy. You see, this is 200 nanometer, this is 200 to 350 nanometer. So in this range, because both are coming from sun, from the sun. Okay, so UV range, visible range, everything is coming. Okay, so here this light can break the ozone. Ozone can be decomposed to oxygen in the lab also, but it is slow. It is slow decomposition. Okay, but here with light, proper light, it can decompose to form ozone also and oxygen. So this is the formation, this is the depletion of ozone. Natural depletion, because light is always coming from the sun. So it is natural. So naturally it is formed and naturally it is depleted. This is happening, and this is maintaining a steady state. Natural formation, natural depletion, that was maintained, and it is producing a constant concentration, that is 10 to the 15 molecules per liter of ozone, and it is maintaining the steady state. But now what is happening? We are doing something. We are the culprit. Okay, we are the culprit to do something so that the ozone layer is getting depleted. Now, how it is depleted? What we are doing that it is getting depleted? That I will tell you. Okay. See, what is happening here? This is one activity, this is another activity. Okay. This is one activity. What? This is chlorofluorocarbon, CFC. This is the chlorine is there, fluorine is there, carbon. So it is basically the methane. In the methane, if you replace the 4 hydrogens by 2 chlorine atoms and 2 fluorine atoms, then it will be this one. So this is the chlorofluorocarbon, CFC. This is being used here in the refrigerators, and many sprays also. We spray something. So in the spray also, this is a solvent. Okay, and now when it is used, it is volatile. So some of the chlorofluorocarbon is escaped, and it goes to the, and it is it is going to the stratosphere. Okay, it is released, it is some amount is escaping, and that is going to, that is not reacting in the troposphere, that is going to the stratosphere. Okay, and then when it is going to the stratosphere, then some photon is reacting, means it is interacting, and then it is producing some, this is called free radical. You see, it's chlorine, it is actually chlorine dot. This is also dot, CClF2. So one chlorine is coming here, so to form the chlorine dot. This dots, this is the, you know, homogeneous breaking of a bond. Covalent bond, if homogeneously broken, then two free radicals are formed. So this is one free radical, this is another free radical. So these free radicals are very reactive. Okay. So this free radical reacts with ozone to form this one, but this is again free radical. So this free radical again reacts with oxygen atom to form again chlorine free radical. So this is again regenerated. Okay. This is called chain reaction. Chain reaction means from one molecule you can produce, it is continued many steps and it is coming back again. Okay. So this is chain type of reaction where many these chlorine dots are produced, and so it is reacting with ozone to deplete the ozone layer. This is one type of activity, man-made activity. Now that is why it is now banned. Chlorofluorocarbon you cannot use anymore. Okay, it is banned. This is one type of activity. Another type of activity is by supersonic jets. Supersonic jets, they release the nitric oxide, NO. Nitric oxide can react with ozone to form the nitrogen dioxide and oxygen. This nitrogen dioxide again can react with oxygen atom to form NO. So you can see that this is again regenerated NO. So again this NO molecule can react with ozone. So this type of reaction continues. And many ozone molecules are degraded to oxygen, okay, decomposed, okay. That is why this type of, so to know when it was realized that ozone layer is getting depleted, many holes are produced in the ozone layer, and you know that ozone is protecting us from the UV light that is coming from the sun, okay. So it is protecting us. So when ozone layer is depleted and many holes are produced in the ozone layer, then a lot of UV rays are coming in the earth surface, on the earth surface, and that will create cancer to the people. It is UV light causes cancer, you know, UV light causes cancer. So the ozone layer was there to protect us from the UV light, but now ozone layer is getting depleted. Many places ozone holes are produced, so UV light is passing through that holes and it is creating lot of hazards. Okay, that is why now we are trying to again stop the depletion and to repair the holes. Now again the situation is good, and during this corona, you know, corona time, you know, it is said that many places are already repaired in the ozone layer, because that time no vehicles was running, no pollution was there, so it was helping that ozone, because there is always formation and depletion natural. Okay, so it helped to repair the ozone layer or ozone holes. That is a good part of this corona, okay, corona pandemic. Now, so I hope you have understand. Now this to know the mechanism, you know, there are three scientists. One scientist is from Max Planck Institute, Germany. That is the Paul Kurtgen from Max Planck. Then Mary Molina from MIT, USA, and then Rowland, F.S. Rowland. It is from UCL, University of California, Irvine. So these three scientists, two scientists told about this CFC, that mechanism, and another scientist told about the NO. So they found out the mechanism, the reason behind the ozone layer depletion. And that is why three of them got jointly the Nobel Prize in 1995. This Paul Kurjan also came here and he delivered a very nice lecture. I was there. He delivered a very nice lecture in the open air theater. Okay. Gathering was there. Long time back, but I remember it. So they together got the Nobel Prize, 1995 Nobel Prize. Now anyway, so we know the reason and so we are trying. But this is the thing that you also should know. Now, so I talked about greenhouse effect. I talked about the ozone layer depletion. Now, I also told that Earth's radiation balance, how it is happening. Then this one, effects of agricultural, industrial, human activities, natural processes. So these are the human activities, deforestation and the consequent soil erosion, release of large quantities of dust and fumes in the atmosphere, human practices such as combustion of fossil fuels, release of heat from energy producing sources, means fuels, emission of particles and trace gases into the atmosphere. The atmospheric particles have a cooling effect. What are the effects of the particles? So all those things are producing particles. Particulate matter, okay, particulate matter means small particles together with the aerosol also, small droplets. So they are all together, it is called particulate matter. They have lot of effect on the climate as well as they have effect. You see here, the atmospheric particles have a cooling effect on the Earth's surface through increased scattering of the sun rays. If these particles are there, then the sunlight that is coming, they will be scattered back. Okay, so then we will have cooling effect. Dark particles, but if it is dark particles deposited on shoot, they can absorb the light, so it will have the opposite effect. Okay, they can scatter back the light, so it will have cooling effect. If they absorb light more, then it will produce, means it will increase the temperature, so it is opposite. These are the particulate matters. I will tell you this again, but you see here, there are different ways that particulate matters can be formed. Okay, chemical processes. For formation, there are natural processes, there are chemical processes also. So these are chemical processes. And there are two types of particulate matter. So one is the inorganic particulate matter. So these are the examples, and there are some organic particulate matter that also I will show you. Now, why this reaction is happening? When? This is iron pyrite. Okay, iron pyrite. When it is heated in presence of oxygen, then iron oxide is produced. Now, why I have shown this? APS2, iron pyrite, because in coal, you know, many coals, you see that iron pyrite is there. Now, when you burn the coal in thermal power plant, many places we burn coal. When we burn coal, then this is reacting with oxygen to form iron oxide, and they will produce the particulate matter, iron oxide particulate matter. Similarly, in the coal, this is called ash fraction. In the coal, there are different fractions, okay? So there is some ash fraction, that is calcium carbonate. That is also, when heated, produces calcium oxide. That also can go in the form of very fine particles, that is particulate matter, and it is mixed in the atmosphere. Okay, and it may create lot of problems, lot of effect on Earth. Okay, and this one is lead tetraethyl. You all know that where it is used. Lead tetraethyl is used in the gasoline. Okay, this is the antenna compound. This is used in the gasoline. You have seen in the gas stations that unleaded petrol and leaded petrol. Unleaded petrol means where this is not there, and leaded petrol means where in the petrol it is there. Okay, leaded and unleaded. Now we are encouraging unleaded petrol. It may be little costly, but it is better for the environment. But only now we are thinking about, but it has been used, it is being used for a long time, and when it is heated, then it can, and these halogenated scavengers are also used in the gasoline as the scavengers. Okay, halogenated compounds. Okay, halogenated, say for example, dichloroethane, dibromoethane, all those things are used as a scavenger. So when this lead tetraethyl is heated, then it produces the lead halides. They are also forming the particulate matter, and it is either it is going into the air, or sometimes it is deposited in the soil. Okay, so in the soil, if you test where a lot of vehicles are going, if you test the soil, you will see a lot of lead present. This is because of this leaded petrol. Okay, now here you know that sulfuric acid is a very important compound, and we prepare it by this method. Sulfur dioxide upon oxidation and then reaction with H2O, it produces H2SO4, and this can form aerosol mist. Aerosol mist. Again, this aerosol mist can react with ammonia or calcium oxide, which is present in air, to form different types of salts. Like here it is ammonium sulfate or calcium sulfate. They also produce the particulate matter, very fine particles of these salts. So these are the different methods that happening or processes going on to produce the particulate matter. They are all inorganic particulate matter, because you have seen these are all inorganic compounds. Now there may be some organic also. Organic particulate matter, how it is produced, chemical processes for formation of organic particulate matter. You have seen soot particles, soot, black carbon, okay, soot particles. If you light a candle, then you will see that from the candle a lot of black things are coming out. That is nothing but soot, okay? Soot, carbon particle. But this is not just carbon, there may be many things. Okay, so organic particulate matter originates from wide variety of sources. Say for example, vegetation and automobiles, combustion of fuel. It is benzene extractable fraction. It is organic. That is why you can extract it in benzene. Okay, benzene is an organic solvent, right? So you can extract it in organic solvent, that is benzene. Although benzene is very toxic. Nowadays we are not using benzene anymore, because in parts per billion level also it is toxic. So, but there are other solvents, organic solvents. So for example, hexane, they are soluble in these organic solvents also. Now these particles, such particles with 1 micron size range are potential health hazard. The particle, when the size of the particle is lower, okay, then it goes through our nose very easily. It is not obstructed by our nose, and it goes inside and goes to the respiratory tract or lungs. Okay, that is why when the size is very small, it is more dangerous. And when in the organic particulate matter, there may be some other compounds adsorbed. Say for example, some hydrocarbons which are also organic, so they can be adsorbed there. They can be adsorbed on the soot particle. Soot particle is very good adsorbent. Okay, so they can be adsorbed there, and so it goes inside us in the lungs, and it is even more dangerous because those organic compounds are very toxic. Like one compound, benzoapyrene, which is carcinogenic, deadly carcinogenic, they can be there. Okay, and then they can produce cancer. So this is these are the particulate the effect of particulate matters. So so what did I discuss? Let me go back. So this is the composition. Then these are the general things you have to learn. Then this is the atmospheric structure. Then this is the major regions of the atmosphere. This is the absorption of terrestrial radiation by water and carbon dioxide. Okay, and then this is the greenhouse effect, how it is happening. Then ozone layer depletion, formation and depletion, man-made activities, Earth's radiation balance, particulate matter, how it is formed. Here the soil erosion, or sometimes volcanic eruption, or sometimes combustion of fossil fuels, all those things produces the particulate matter. And then there are two types of particulate matter, organic and inorganic, and their effect, how they are produced, and what is the effect. So these are the things I have discussed. I will discuss, I have time, we have time, so I will discuss another, but another topic I will discuss. If you have any question in this topic, you can ask. Then after 5 minutes, I will go to my next topic. Okay, so I'm coming to my next topic. Can you see the PPT? Can you see the slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is the nitrogen cycle, and for this, the book, it is not the same book. In the previous topic, it was by A.K. Dey, the book I mentioned. But here it is Chemistry for Environmental Engineering by Saward, McCarthy and Parkin. This is a very famous book, and this is this book you can get in the net. I have learned from some of my students that it is there in the net. Okay, you can read it. Otherwise, you can learn from any other book. That is also fine. Okay, now it is the nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen, you know that you have learned in the previous topic that nitrogen is 80%, almost 80%. Volume by volume, that compose in the whole atmosphere, it is major component. Okay, but nitrogen at the Earth's surface exists almost entirely, 99.9% as gaseous diatomic molecule. Okay, so in the atmosphere, 80% volume, you know, nitrogen, but that is dinitrogen, isn't it? Nitrogen molecule, it is called dinitrogen. It should not be called nitrogen. It should be called dinitrogen because it is N2. It is the molecule, isn't it? And 99.9% is present as nitrogen molecule. Okay. And nitrogen-nitrogen bond is it is a triple bond, N triple bond, N. Okay. And it is a very stable bond, very stable. The energy of dissociation is 945 kilojoule per mole, the largest of any diatomic molecule except carbon monoxide. Nitrogen molecule is very stable. The great stability of nitrogen molecule resists its reactivity and allows the use of nitrogen atmosphere to prevent air oxidation in metallurgical, chemical, and food processing operations. Inert atmosphere. To create the inert atmosphere, we use nitrogen gas. Many reactions are very sensitive to oxygen because oxygen is very reactive. Then in those cases, we always use the nitrogen gas to produce the inert atmosphere. Okay. This is because nitrogen is very stable. But for most biological and industrial purposes, however, what is needed is not molecular nitrogen but compounds of nitrogen. Plants, they also need nitrogen, right? To produce the, say, protein molecules, or we, the living beings, also need nitrogen to produce the proteins, that many biological molecules like DNA, everywhere you see the nitrogen is present. Protein molecules, nitrogen is present. So nitrogen is very important element. But these nitrogens all are in combined state, not nitrogen molecule. They are all combined state. With some other element it is combined. It is oxygen, it is hydrogen, it is other elements. That is why it is said that for most biological and industrial purposes, however, what is needed is not molecular nitrogen, but compounds of nitrogen with other elements. So this formation, the formation of such compounds is called nitrogen fixation. Nitrogen which is not compound, which is zero state, which is in zero state, if we can convert it to other state, maybe plus, maybe minus, that is combined state with any element, then we will call it nitrogen fixation. Okay? Zero state to any other state. If we can convert, then it is called nitrogen fixation. This is a very important term, nitrogen fixation. Why it is important? Because you see here that nitrogen is a very important element, isn't it? For any living things, for growth, for plants also it is very much needed. Now, what happened, you see, in late 18th century, continuous population growth in Europe had taken place, and hence increased yield of food or crop was needed. Late 18th century, long time back, when there was lot of population growth, then to grow more crops for the food, what was needed? Something is needed, that is the fertilizer. To grow more crop, we need fertilizer. But that time, previous to that, means before that, there was no process known to produce the chemically, in the lab or in the any industrial level, there is no method known to produce the fertilizer, nitrogen fertilizer. Okay. What people used to do that time? They used to collect the waste products of the animals. They are good source of fertilizer. So they used to manure. So they used to collect those from different places and they used to put them in the soil and they used to grow the plants. Otherwise, they used to go to some places where there is some, like, you know, saltpeter or chili saltpeter. This is nitrate, that potassium nitrate, or that is also natural minerals. Okay, so they used to collect those minerals and used to put in the soil, and then they used to grow the plants. But now that was not sufficient. During this time, because of the population growth, those naturally occurring things was not sufficient. That is why Sir William Crookes in 1898, he addressed the British Association and said that a fixation of atmospheric nitrogen is necessary. That means we have enough food. Say for example, in front of us, we have enough food, but we have to cook it. If we don't cook it, we cannot eat it. Okay, so nitrogen is there, but in that molecular nitrogen we cannot accept. We have to convert it. We have to fix it. We have to convert it to any combined state. Okay, and then we can use it. Plants can use it. How to do it? Before that, everything was natural, but now we need some chemical methods, industrial method to fix the atmospheric nitrogen. And you know, when this type of challenges come, then all scientists, everybody jumps on the problem, and then they start working on that, and they get something. Okay, they get the success. So within 10 years, you see that there are 3 methods developed. One is the Haber-Bosch process. You have learned in the school that nitrogen and hydrogen, when they react under, you see the condition, 200 atmosphere pressure, 550 degrees centigrade, and in presence of catalyst, that is finely divided iron as catalyst. This type of means condition, you see the harsh condition, high temperature, high pressure, even catalyst. So they produced the ammonia from nitrogen and hydrogen. Yield was very low. It is 7% yield, very low yield, but still that process got the Nobel Prize. You see, that time it was so much important that this process, Haber-Bosch process, got the Nobel Prize. The other 2 methods, one is the electric arc method. This you have learnt in the school. If you remember, nitrogen and oxygen, these two, when mixed and then high voltage electricity is passed through it, then temperature is very high, several thousands, 1000, 2000, and then they combine to form nitric oxide, NO. And when NO is formed, it can react with oxygen to form NO2, nitrogen dioxide. And this nitrogen dioxide, when it dissolves in water, it produces the acids, nitric acid and nitrous acid. Okay, so that means what? That means from nitrogen you are producing, in one case, nitric acid, so it is combined state. In another case, in Haber-Bosch, you are producing from nitrogen to ammonia. This is also combined state. So these 2 methods are nitrogen fixation. Okay. There is another method, cyanamide. Cyanamide means calcium carbide, CaC2. If you react with nitrogen, then it will form CaCN2. CaCN2 plus C. Okay, CaCN2 means calcium cyanamide. CaCN2. CaCN2 when reacts with water, it forms ammonia and calcium carbonate. So here also you see that CaC2 plus nitrogen forms CaCN2, then it reacts with water to form NH3. So from nitrogen to ammonia, that means it is also fixation. So 3 methods were developed within 10 years. Okay. But in all 3 methods, what you have seen that all 3 methods are very high energy process. Here also high temperature is needed. Here also to prepare the calcium carbide, also very high temperature is needed. Then here also pressure, temperature is very high. That means because this is obvious, because nitrogen is a very stable molecule. If you want to break it, you need high energy. That is why all methods are industrial methods, but high energy processes. Now, here you can see some relevance of those industrial processes. Say, for example, here you can see that in the atmosphere, it is called atmospheric fixation. In the atmosphere, there is always nitrogen and oxygen. When the lightning, thunderstorm, lightning comes, then high temperature is generated, and then nitrogen and oxygen combine to form nitric oxide. Then air is there, means oxygen is there, so nitric oxide NO produces NO2. Then rain comes. When rain comes, this NO2 dissolves in rain, means water. Then it forms the nitrates, nitric acids. Then it comes to the soil. Then in the soil it comes nitrate, here nitrate, and then it goes to the groundwater, or it goes to the any surface water. Okay, so this is very similar. Atmospheric fixation is very similar to the here you see electric arc process, isn't it? This is electric arc process. This is basically naturally occurring electric arc process. So this is one method of nitrogen fixation. These are all industrial methods I discussed. There is another type of fixation. It is called biological fixation. This is also natural. What is happening? You know that there are some plants where in the roots there are some nodules. Okay, in that nodules there are some microorganisms can grow. Okay? Rhizobium group of microorganisms, they can grow, and it is like it is called symbiosis. Symbiosis means given and taken policy, means I will give you something, you give me something, like that. So what is happening here? Those microorganisms, they have the capability to fix the nitrogen from the atmosphere. They take the nitrogen directly from the atmosphere, they convert it to some inorganic form, that is ammonium ion, and then it can be converted by the plant to the protein molecule, and in turn they get the shelter from the plant. So this is given and taken policy, and that way they fix the nitrogen from the atmosphere. So plant gets the nitrogen from due to this, and the microorganisms, they get the shelter in the plant. Now this type of if you have seen some places between two major crops, sometimes this type of plants, this is peas, peas, or there are many other plants like this, they are grown, and that way when these types of plants die, then it is mixed in the soil, and then this soil gets enriched with this nitrogen. This is green manure. Okay, so somewhere this is done. So this is called biological fixation. Now nitrogen cycle means, say for example, this nitrate, it is taken up from the soil by the plants, then they grow the protein, then these protein molecules are taken up by the means these plants are eaten by the animals, then these plant protein, they convert into animal protein, then they give the waste products or vegetables, or when the plants die, then they are mixed in the soil, then there are a lot of microorganisms, they can degrade those organic molecules to produce ammonia or nitrite or nitrate. Okay, then again they are taken up by this is called nitrogen cycle. And some of the nitrate, they can be denitrification also can occur by some microorganisms, and they can be transformed into nitrogen, and they can go back to the atmosphere. Okay, this is called denitrification, and this is called nitrification. Ammonia to nitrite to nitrate, it is called nitrification. These are done by different kinds of microorganisms. So for example, ammonia to nitrite, it is carried out by a group of microorganism which is called Nitrobacter, Nitrosomonas. Okay, I will show you. Here you see nitrosomonas. So ammonia, when it is converted to nitrite in presence of oxygen, this is done by nitrosomonas group of bacteria, and from nitrite in presence of oxygen, when it is converted to nitrate, it is done by nitrobacter group of bacteria. So these two processes, it is called nitrification, and denitrification is the opposite process. That means from nitrate it is converted to nitrogen or ammonia. This is reduction, this is oxidation. Oxidation in presence of oxygen, and this is under reducing condition, the nitrification can occur. So they are all separate group of bacteria, microorganisms that they can do this type of reaction. Okay. Now, why nitrogen chemistry is very important? Because nitrogen has different oxidation states. Say in ammonia, it is -3. The nitrogen, the oxidation state of nitrogen is -3. In nitrogen molecule, it is 0. In nitrous oxide, it is 1, +1. Then nitric oxide +2, like this. So mostly in water, it is present as either nitrate or nitrite. In the soil also nitrate or nitrite, and in some places ammonium ion also can be present, where it is the oxidation state is -3. In organic derivatives, the oxidation state of nitrogen is same as this ammonia, as it is in ammonia. Okay. Now these are the different conversions. Say nitrate, it is taken up by the plants in presence of carbon dioxide and light, they can produce the protein. Here it is that special group of bacteria, they can fix the nitrogen from the atmosphere, rhizobium group, so convert it to protein. Then this is another process, ammonia, in presence of carbon dioxide and light, they can produce protein. Urea, which is coming out as the waste product, so it can be converted to ammonium salt in the presence of some enzyme urease. Okay, protein by some bacteria, it can be converted to, it can be decomposed to ammonia or ammonium ion. So there are different processes going on with this nitrogen in the nitrogen cycle. That is why the nitrogen cycle is very important for us, all biological, all living animals or plants. This process is very important. This is again, this is the nitrogen cycle. The thing what I have explained, it is shown here. Atmospheric nitrogen, it is coming here by the nitrogen fixing microorganism. Here it is coming as ammonia, means protein, then microbial decay to ammonia, then nitrosomonas, nitrite, then nitrobacter, nitrate, then denitrification can occur to give the nitrogen. And this is the chemical and atmospheric fixation. So these also can produce nitrate. So these are the different processes going on in the nitrogen cycle. You don't have to remember in this way. You can write in your own way also. You can draw in your own way also. Don't have to memorize in this way. Now, when there was no good bacteriological test, that time the nitrogen data was used to know the sanitary quality of water. So nitrogen data that time was the indicator of the sanitary quality. Why? Because you know that when some organic pollution occurs, that means some compound which contains nitrogen, say for example protein molecule, if you throw it, then with time how it is changing, how the nitrogen is changing from one form to another form with time. Okay, that is shown here. The nitrogen, if you estimate, you have methods to estimate nitrogen in different forms. So you will see that with time organic nitrogen, which was initially highest concentration, it is going down, and then some ammonia nitrogen is produced, means formed from this organic nitrogen. So it is then the curve is like this. Then when ammonia also goes down, some nitrite is produced, and finally the nitrate is produced with time. So ultimately the organic nitrogen is going to the inorganic form, that is nitrate nitrogen. Okay, with time. So what is the form of nitrogen? From there you will get idea that about the that sanitary quality. That time this is one of the methods to know. But now we have methods to know the sanitary quality. So maybe this is not used now. And this type of degradation, how temperature is affecting, that also we can see. Health hazard, depending on this degradation, it is depending on that health hazard. It is related to health hazard also. So in winter time, because temperature is low, so it takes more time to have this type of conversion. And in summer, temperature is high, so it goes faster. Okay. So these are the different things. The nitrogen cycle is very important. Nitrogen chemistry is also very important, and it is important. It is also under the means air or air pollution or atmosphere, whatever you can tell. Now I am giving one problem to you. You can solve it at your home, not here, but you can write it down and you can solve it at home. Next day I will see what answer you get. Okay, I will ask you the answer. You please write it down. Okay. If you have any question, you can ask in these two topics. If you have any question, now you can ask. Otherwise, you can ask me through mail also, or through this Microsoft Team, that also. Please write down this problem and solve it. If you have question, you can ask. Otherwise, you can leave up to this. Today only up to this. I have covered these two topics. Okay. Do you have any question?
No, ma'am.
Huh? No question? Have you written down this problem? Please solve it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And next day I will ask what answer you got. Okay. And it has some relevance with this that thing you have learned. Okay. Today. Okay, then if you have no question, you can leave. Bye. Bye for today. Next day I will see you on 31st.